Getting into our topic, FGM. Most children, most females, whether male or female, because circumcision applies to both. But in this regard, we are narrowing it down to the female child. From what we know, I'm sure all of us here either know or experience somebody who have experience with FGM. Normally, this is an act that is done at a very minor, tender age, at a time that the child is not capable of making any decision. Sometimes the child is not even aware of it. We have customary practices where a child is taken for circumcision at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So what does that child have to say about whether I agree or I don't agree, whether I like or I don't like? The child has no knowledge. You just grow up and find yourself circumcised. That is an act that we call a harmful act or a negligent act. A negligent act, maybe probably, we can say the person who was doing it does not know of the consequence. That is one limb of the law. But it's very difficult to escape. There's another limb of the law which says that you ought to know. Knowing and ought to know are two different things. When you know that if I circumcise this child, this is going to be the consequence or implication, then automatically you are caught under the law. But then the negligent act, that is why the law makes provision for negligent acts causing death. Negligence is where you ought to know, even if you don't know. But it is saying that if I circumcise this child and the child develops, like Dr. Imam said, scars, or the child dies as a result of that circumcision, or suffers from some grievous harm as a result of that circumcision, that is where the knowledge, the negligent act of not owing to know that if I do this, this is going to be the result. I'm not a medical doctor, but taking a blade or a knife and cutting somebody, and not only a child, automatically the person will bleed. That is natural. So it's the same thing that happens in the case of circumcision. If you circumcise a child, automatic that child must bleed. And if you cannot control that bleeding until it leads to excessive bleeding, you are responsible for that act. The time of doing, you don't know that this will be the result, but you ought to know that if you cut somebody's body or privacy and that child bleeds to an extent that the child suffers any harm, you are also caught under this act. But then the problem that we face in this jurisdiction, in the Gambia, I don't know of other jurisdictions. The laws are there to protect people. We don't apply it. Either we don't know, or because if we know, we apply the Maslaha syndrome. We all know our custom and tradition of Maslaha. Don't go to the police. In fact, some will tell you, is it your business? Is it your child? Why are you poking your nose into other people's family or other people's business? It's a legal responsibility. Even if you know, we will come to that. That is called accomplices. I will come to that. If you sit and see somebody taking a child for circumcision and you don't say or report that person, you are an accomplice. An accomplice is somebody who has a foreknowledge that this person is going to do something wrong against the law.